Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Somewhere between science and superstition.
We have such sights to show you.
Strange Aeons. Welcome to Strange Aeons Radio. That's Eric over there.
Hello.
That is Vanessa over there.
Good morning.
And I'm Kelly. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, all.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm heading up to my family's up in Bellingham, going to probably drink a lot.
Ooh.
Going to probably sing a little bit of karaoke down in the downstairs theater area.
Oh.
Gonna maybe accidentally get stuck up there for 3 weeks because it snowed again or something like that.
Please no. Please
so
no.
I have big plans and mostly really going up there to spend some time with my dad.
Aww.
So what about you guys? Eric, you got anything going on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's usually something at Roz and Marty's house, Dina's parents, so we'll be going over there. And I think my buddy Jamie will be coming up this year, and got, I think, another family person from California who's studying up here is coming. I'm not sure if he's making it or not, but...
Are you saying Jamie Pence, he of the dulcet tones?
That's right.
He's going to be joining you? That's very cool. Yeah. Please say hello to Jamie for me. Or I could say it right now because I bet he's listening. Hi, Jamie. Happy Thanksgiving.
On the drive up to the Thanksgiving festivities, you can listen to this. That's why we brought it out today.
So good.
Vanessa?
Yeah. So, I mean, technically, I'm going to go over to the vineyard that my husband's family has. It's kind of the last holiday of the year that I can go through the passes safely.
Oh,
So,
sure.
yeah. So instead of doing Christmas, I said, could we just do Thanksgivings with you guys, like for all of time? Because then I never have to, ideally, hopefully, worry about the snow. But the thing I'm missing out on with my family, I don't know if I talked about it on air, but my grandma did pass away.
That's right.
Yeah.
She's 97 years old, would have been 98 in early December. So it was, she lived a full life.
Right.
However, we already had her funeral, but they do want to spend on Thanksgiving the spreading of her ashes, where she had a house on Alki. And my uncle will get into a kayak with her ashes and go out to a nearby dock and spread them, depending on the weather. And that is the big plan that I will be missing out on, unfortunately.
Do the people who own the dock know this is happening?
I think it's a kind of a public-y dock.
Huh.
Yeah, it's just one that's been out there forever. I think whoever owned it originally it's changed hands so many times that now the seals just hang out on it.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so that'll be
Spreading
fun.
ashes is a weird experience. Did that with my dad, and the lesser part with my mom. So it's bizarre.
Yeah, I've never been to an ash spreading ceremony before, and I'm sad to miss this one, but at the same time, I was like, I've already done like 20 things for helping celebrate this lady's passing, and I feel like I probably need to spend time with the other part of the family. So,
Sure.
Yeah, I want to change my plans and go hang out at your husband's winery.
they'd love to have you.
Bring the karaoke machine.
That's right. I'll bring my entire family. We all happen to be a bunch of winos.
Oh yeah, if you guys buy a bottle of wine, they will open up pretty much any hour.
Lol,
for
a
you.
bottle.
A bottle
A
per
bottle.
person, maybe. Yeah, that's the
It
lowest.
See, it
easily.
pays off for them. No, they love it. They're pretty new to the business. They've only been doing it. I think this is their second year.
Oh, you know what I love about this idea, Vanessa, is you can bring me a bottle back.
Oh yeah, that's right. Please text and remind me. I will forget 100%.
Whatever they think their best red is. Or not their best, their tastiest red.
It's very expensive, but okay.
Well, you can afford it. Your family, right?
That's true. They would give me a discount. Please, listeners, do not ask for a discount. They need the money. Please, listeners, buy Mangato Winery. Purchase it. It's good.
Oh, there you go.
I'm just going to send you down there with some money, and then whatever discount you can get, as much money as I've given you on wine.
Okay, one bottle or as many bottles as I can fit into that dollar amount?
As many bottles as you can fit into that dollar amount.
Copy that. All right.
There you go.
I got to see some movies Or
Oh,
I got
well,
to,
that's
I got
good.
to see some stuff. I'm not
Okay.
going into movies this time.
Oh,
Whoa.
holy smokes.
I wonder if you guys have been watching this. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off.
I just started watching that. I'm 2 episodes away from the end, but last night just shotgunned through the first 6.
At first, like the first episode, I was like, oh no,
Why?
this is quite bad.
Mhm.
The voice acting was bad and the storyline was dull and everything. And
It's
then,
super repetitive of the film,
yeah,
like almost line for
and I'm a
line.
huge fan of the film. I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan of the comics. And I thought, well, a 6-episode series or 8-episode, perfect way to actually do the comic book correctly.
Mhm.
When the movie came out, the comics weren't even finished, so they put an ending on there that
Was
Brian
not
O'Malley
that
had not
A little
written.
weird.
Whoa, I did
And
not realize that.
Yeah, and I never really cared for the ending of the movie, and I thought, well, okay, we're gonna get this done correctly now.
Uh-huh.
At the end of that first episode, a big switch up.
Yeah. Big change. Big change. I mean, it makes sense with the title. If you put it all together,
Right.
Scott Pilgrim Takes Off.
Well, I will say this: it's kind of a remix of the storyline in the movie, and you're spending a lot more time with the side characters in this show. And
Yeah.
I ended up really, really enjoying it.
I've been really liking it a lot. And I love this sort of approach they're taking where they're getting Ramona Flowers to talk to her exes and have
Yeah.
these really difficult discussions about like what happened or didn't happen or and I really appreciate that. I'm glad that they went there because in the past it was like, oh, you gotta like win her over. It's
Right.
a little bit aged idea at this point.
Probably a little aged back then too. It was
Yeah.
Oh,
Brian O'Malley
yeah.
going through his personal experiences too. But this really kind of tells you how an evil ex might become an evil ex instead of just saying,
They are.
you were a bad person when we dated.
Well, I'll have to add that to my list after finish the last 2 episodes of Scavenger's Reign
Oh,
that you suggested, which to help you,
Mhm.
they're like 27-minute long episodes. They're not 50, so you're good.
Oh, thank
And
God.
they're so
you're
fucking
lying.
good. No,
They're 46 minutes.
no, they're not. You got some weird ass extended version that you watch 6 episodes instead of 12. But that was the first thing I looked at when I was like, thinking, oh fuck, this is an hour. No, it's not. It's 27 minutes. All right. But
You're not gonna let Vanessa have her.
Oh,
Turn.
we're already in it.
no, I wasn't talking about it. I was saying I'm going to do that after. I'm adding Scott Pilgrim because
Oh, I
that
see.
is awesome.
Oh.
Amazing. Yeah, you should definitely check it out. And I keep meaning to read the comics. We have them in our home. And I have not read them. And I've read other stuff of like other one-offs of his work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell's wrong with me? I need to just like sit through these.
Yeah.
Well, I watched a show and hopefully this isn't the second one you were planning on talking about, Kelly, but might be. Monarch Legacy of Monsters.
It was the second, but let's talk about it.
Okay.
We've thrown out our format now, so we can all just skip around.
Okay, good. All right.
Seems
Yes.
to be,
Everything.
do what we do, man.
Yeah, I first of all, I thought that when I was told I was going to sit down and watch a Godzilla TV show, I thought it was going to be the 0 year or whatever, which I was
-0.
Yeah, which I'm not excited about.
What? It's got like a 98% rating.
I don't know. The trailer looked kind of dull.
Oh, everybody loves
Really?
it.
Holy
I
shit.
can't wait for Godzilla -0.
Amazing.
Well, we started watching it and I was like, oh, this is not what I thought I was going to watch. And this is awesome because I loved Kong Island or Skull Island, sorry. And I'm really enjoying this kind of in between period place. And then I was like, oh my God, it's got Wyatt Russell in it. This is so fun. And I got to the end of the second episode, which anybody who watched the trailer would know, but I hadn't watched the trailer. Kurt Russell shows up and I lost my goddamn mind. I was just like, this is fucking awesome. I am 100% in. Like, this is great.
The gimmick being, of course, that Wyatt Russell plays Kurt Russell's character in the 50s. I loved that first episode. The second one I found myself getting a little tired of, but there's no shortage of big monsters in it, which I was afraid
Yeah.
of.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
My reaction was actually the opposite. I'm like, oh, fuck, this is from the people who made Skulls Island. Maybe I'll watch it. But it
Ruh-roh.
looks so cool that I probably will end up watching it.
it's pretty
super
good.
fun.
It's
Yeah.
pretty good. I was not a fan of Skull Island either, but I mean, just right off the bat, now I can't remember the actor's name.
Oh, I know.
John
John
Goodman. John Goodman
Oh,
shows up, and I was like,
He
boy, they have
starts.
spared no expense on this.
Nope. Yeah, that
Apple.
was so great. And I didn't remember that he was in Skull Island. So I was just like, fuck, this is so fun. This is so fucking. I mean, I haven't seen Skull Island since theaters, but it was just, yeah, I was so excited. It was John Goodman. Yay.
That's very
I will say I'm curious where they're going to go. I've got a lot of I've been noticing this a lot more as I've been writing, and I'm like, why is this storyline of this girl, our main protagonist in this film, why is this so complicated? The story of her father and everything. I was just like, boy, this is an awful lot to jam into here, and I think that the story of the organization is
Right.
probably strong enough to carry us through this series.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's a way to like crack into it from a different approach, but it is, yeah, it is definitely complicated. And it's also character. We've seen this guy before, right? In the
Yes.
movies. Yeah, so I was like, they're trying to make a probably very dull, like one-dimensional character into a much more multifaceted person, and that works for me, but it is hard because there's a lot of girl being irritated and stomping off into the street
Yeah.
action, which I just like, I don't care. So that stuff is less interesting, and I'm hoping that we in the third episode maybe things will pick up a little bit there.
Yeah.
Well, the one I watched was fine. We talked about it briefly, and I agree with what you said. Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh,
Oh.
I ended up
Okay.
watching the whole thing over a few days. It
Oh my
was not a
gosh.
watch through. The Nicolas Cage Willy Wonderland, which I realize is probably borrowed heavily from the video game
Mhm.
of this nature, but that was still more entertaining than this film.
I've heard that, and that the effects are just more
Oh,
fun.
they're fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm starting to
Were
move
you
past the
a fan of the game, or
I never played
I
it.
never played it
Yeah, I know
either.
nothing
I
about it.
didn't
No,
either.
okay.
If this storyline is the game, holy shit, one of the darkest games ever written,
It's
man.
apparently it was a very vague storyline initially, and there have been so many spin-offs and so many different types of mixed media materials and theories that a lot of fans are just enjoying the different like approach. But I don't know that this is officially the story.
Dark.
I'll tell you this. I was just complaining about this. Talk about needlessly complicated. We are
Yeah.
introduced to this security guard who has a troubled history of losing his brother.
Mhm.
And then we meet him with his daughter. No, it's his sister that he's trying to
Who's,
get custody
What,
of.
20 years younger than him?
Right. And he's
Oh.
fighting against a woman who you're like, is this the mom of the kid? No, it's his aunt.
Mhm.
And I was like, why
What?
is this story so complicated? This doesn't need to be.
She doesn't even need to be in the story.
She doesn't.
She is.
And Josh Hutcherson, listen, Josh, if you're listening, no offense, personality of a soap bar.
Oh no.
This guy, why is he getting work? He can't act. He's good looking enough, I guess, but he's just a block of wood on camera.
I think he's done some really good stuff, but he is not a leading man, carry a movie level actor. He just, and the writing in this movie doesn't help him along
No.
those lines either, because he is written as a very stale, weird character. I don't. It does get really dark. I mean, Lady in White kind of dark. But by the end, I'm like, heck yeah. And no, the main thing I think you'd said before when we talked about it's like, who is this for?
Yeah.
What is the age group?
That is the confusing part. Like my nephew,
Yes.
who's, I don't know, 8, 9, is like obsessed with Five Nights at Freddy's.
Mhm.
He's never played it. It's all the kids on the schoolyard, and he's like, "Oh, let me tell you." And it's these kids, and they're blah blah blah, and da 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 da. And I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like,
It
Yeah.
does, yeah, it does get
marketed at the Minecraft crowd, but come on.
strangely dark what the animatronic creatures are when
Yeah.
that's
And-
revealed.
And that it was like a Scooby-Doo sort of mystery, which I had no idea it was supposed to be. We don't know who's doing this
Yeah.
until there was a reveal of who's doing it. I'm going, oh, that was what? That there's no indication that he's trying to solve a mystery. The whole thing he's trying to find his brother and find the guy who took his brother. And I guess that sort of leads to
Yeah.
that, but the Scooby-Doo style ending doesn't fit that narrative very well.
Man.
It's fine. Although it's kicking ass. It's making
Oh.
shitloads at the box office.
For sure.
You guys are really selling me on this film.
No, don't.
I wouldn't worry
What
about it.
was the Nicolas Cage one that was like
Willy's
this?
Wonderland.
Willy's Wonderland
Yeah.
is so much better because it is so simple.
Yeah.
He's hired as a security guard at this thing.
Uh-huh.
We don't know why he's so fucking weird,
Yeah.
and we don't care. He just loves to pound energy drinks and beat the shit out of animatronic monsters.
Yeah. And he
Dude.
doesn't, I think he said like 2 words or no words in
Right.
the movie or some shit like that. It's exactly what this movie should have been, but was
Ooh.
not.
Man, yeah, and I've heard good things about is it like the banana something or another's? There was like a show in the 70s with these like
The Banana Splits.
the
Yeah.
Banana Splits. I've heard the Banana Splits movie is also a really interesting take on a
Oh.
very similar theme.
Okay, sure,
So,
why not? But,
something to consider.
So, big fans. If you love it, great. This is just not my area. How about you, Kelly? What else have you seen?
Well, see, I had to scramble now and look at something,
Sorry.
but I saw the Equalizer 3.
Oh my God.
okay.
How was Equalizer 3? Because my mom, who is a giant fan of the Equalizer series, she forgets every time. However, she is.
Which iteration of it? The original, the new one?
The new one
movies?
with the movies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's a little complicated. But part of this was the stunt casting of putting Dakota Fanning in it again because these movies all kind of run into each other.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that first one. I think he goes and rescues her or something. And then I realized, no, I'm thinking of Man on Fire.
Yeah.
So this is just
Oh,
stunt
no.
casting, putting them kind of in the same position again, although she's saving him this time. It was fine. Here's what frustrated me the most. This is how my brain works, you guys.
Uh-oh.
The font of the Equalizer
Mhm.
and the 3 is the same. They have the 3 behind the Equalizer word,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sure.
And we've seen how these movies do this where they take a letter and replace that with the number, right? So at first I was like, there's 2 E's in Equalizer that you guys could have used a 3 on,
Oh,
right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
But then I was like, wait a second. Why is this not called the 3-qualizer?
Oh my God.
With the second one being the sequelizer.
Oh my
Ouch.
God.
And so my mind is just running
It's not
through
a-
this.
It's not a Bruno Mattei series, man.
And I couldn't pay a lot of attention to this very generic action
I was
movie.
going to say, that's how you know a movie is not doing it for you. If you're
Yeah.
sitting around thinking about how the 3 could have been used a little bit better in the font.
Well,
Come on.
that's where my brain was going. Also, Denzel, who is probably our generation's finest actor,
Mhm.
One of the best.
I'm watching this movie going, I wonder what awesome movie he didn't make because he was making this.
Oh.
It's fine, but he's
Yeah.
getting a little old to be playing these kind of characters, and I want to see him. I don't know. I don't necessarily want to see him in a dramatic picture, but I want to see
Right.
him a little more respected in a role.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess. I don't know. The 3-qualizer.
Pulling the weird like Sean Connery in The Rock kind of thing or something where it's an older
Right.
actor and he gets to play a really cool role.
Right, exactly that.
Doesn't have to be the lead. Just
yeah.
a really cool role.
So,
Well,
There you
speaking
go.
of well-respected movies, so I forgot to talk about this last time, and I'm glad to get the opportunity. I went and saw Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
oh, okay.
A lot of people really like this film.
Yeah.
It is very long.
Uh-huh.
I find it as maybe I'm just coming at it from a perspective that it is just not really aimed at me, but I found it borderline insulting.
Oh,
It's really it's a Scorsese movie through and through. If you like Scorsese movies, this is a Scorsese joint. Don't think you're going to see a honorable Native American story that is really upholding and respecting this piece of history, because what you're going to see is Leonardo DiCaprio and oh my God, who's the lead in this? Brain. Other very famous, typical. Oh my God, he's in the Bad Grandpa movie. Anyway,
Robert De Niro.
thank you, Robert De Niro. Sorry, I don't know why that was
Johnny Knoxville?
Robert De Niro and Brad and Leonardo DiCaprio talk at each other, but stupidly, for like 3 hours. And occasionally, there's this really cool story in the background that's historically accurate about this sort of Native American town that has become wealthy off of oil, and their people are getting picked off one by one. And there's an incredible Native American actress who's super well cast as the wife of Leonardo DiCaprio. And the trailer makes it look like he goes essentially, excuse the phrase, but goes native. He's supposed to like help steal her money, but then he marries her, falls in love, and Leo starts offing all the people who have hurt her. That's what the trailer says.
That sounds cool.
That sounds cool. That is not this movie.
Oh, where?
This movie is watching him be an idiot for 3 hours and make the wrong decision every single time for 3 fucking hours. And you know what I don't care that much about, and I have seen too many films of already? Scorsese movies with Leonardo DiCaprio and fucking
Yeah, no
Robert De
shit.
Niro talking to each other and trying to outact each other and outpace each other and looking like fake ugly for 3 fucking hours.
Like
Like,
Genocide with Andre.
it's so awful. And I just think and the problem is you can tell that Scorsese thinks he's doing something else and is presenting it like it's something else. They end on like a aerial shot of Native Americans, the tribe today, banging the drums and slowly moving above for a song we don't know what means, for a ceremony that doesn't make sense for this particular moment. It's like shoehorned in, and this is after we just saw like a bunch of white guys on stage lecture at us how the story ends. And I'm just like, it's just white dudes. It's just white dudes telling you a story about a native story, and they think they're doing something good, and that's like the overall. I have problems with this fucking film.
Sounds
Wow.
like
Well, the reviews are pretty mixed on
Mixed,
this. It
yeah.
sounds like you love it or hate it, depending on what you got out of it. I have to admit, it looked kind of boring to me,
Yeah.
and it was 3 hours long, and I was like, well, I will wait for streaming on this one.
They-
Sure.
Scorsese hasn't hit with me in a long time. A lot of his movies recently have just been fine. I
Right.
mean, technically well constructed, of course, because he knows what he's doing. But that one he did where I think it was him,
The
where they
Irishman?
de-aged De
Oh.
Niro.
Yeah.
And then the one he won all the Oscars for, I thought was
Right.
not his best work.
Sure.
I was not salivating at the idea of a new Scorsese movie, so I'll go back and watch After Hours again.
And I'm not going to say he's not. Yeah, exactly. I cannot possibly and would never in a million years say he's a bad director.
No.
He was innovative. He was brilliant. He did an incredible thing in the 70s.
And the 80s. He
And
did a
the
lot of
80s.
good shit in the 80s.
But like, it's been a while and we're in a different time. And if you're playing the old tunes for a new crowd, it's just, I just found it really
Scorsese,
frustrating.
Here's your challenge. Go make a Marvel movie. Show us how they should be made. Yeah.
I would love to see that. Oh my God. For all the bitching you do,
Exactly.
fucking make it work then. I want to see this. That'd
Sorry,
be
Tom.
great.
I almost got there.
I'm trying to remember. Did he do Wolf of Wall Street? Was
That was his.
Yeah, I mean,
okay,
I
that was
remember
pretty,
fucking loving
yeah,
that
was
movie.
Was
that
that,
was
a
good.
Scorsese?
I'm pretty sure it was.
And then, of course, he had that HBO series Vinyl that I really liked.
I didn't see that.
Did he direct those, or was
I
he
think
the
he was the
showrunner?
producer and he directed one. Yeah, he
Yeah.
did Wolf of Wall Street. Before
Yeah,
that, he
that's
did
good.
Hugo, which I didn't care
Yeah.
much for.
Wow.
Shutter Island, which a lot of people love.
Fun.
And,
It was
fun in its
fine.
own
The
way.
Departed. So,
Oh my God. Who all is in these
yeah,
movies?
so he and DiCaprio have some kind of
He's his new
relationship.
He's his new De Niro. No,
Yeah.
he got them together.
Look, Leonardo DiCaprio is incredible and I love seeing him work. He has such a range. It is fucking phenomenal. This kid, he's, probably
40s.
40s
You know
now.
what he doesn't have a range in? Ages of women he dates.
That's true.
Woof.
There you go.
Woof.
Well, anyways,
Yeah.
moving on from hopeful stuff that ended up being not so great to stunningly bad films. Spiral, the
always-
Book of Saw,
Yeah. How
the
was
Chris
that?
Rock one. It's insultingly bad in that it's like, if this had been made in 78
Yeah.
or maybe even into the early 80s,
Yeah.
fantastic cop movie. But it is such an unbelievable level of cliched Chris Rock being the cop who does it his own way, and his boss who hates him and yells at him, and all the other cops that hate him because he follows the rules too closely and screwed
Yeah.
over a fellow cop. That's the main gist of the movie. And then there's Saw things going around on the sides that it's not a Saw movie per se. It's like kind of like Halloween 3. The idea, I think, behind Halloween 3 was we're going to spin off because it's called From the Book of Saw. So I'm assuming they thought Spiral was going to spiral out into a new series of Saw movies. I think there's a reason that Saw 10 came out next because, and I like Chris Rock. I've seen him in some movies. I think he's great.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it as much as you apparently did, probably because it felt very much like a gritty 70s cop movie, which I do like. I thought Chris Rock was horribly miscast for that kind of character. I appreciated him wanting to branch out and try something different, but I don't think that this was right for him. I'll be honest, I've seen all the Saw movies. I thought this was the best one since the first one.
Depends on what you're looking for.
But that's a very low bar.
I was going to say, if you're looking for a Saw movie, no, it's not. If you're looking as a film itself, yeah, it definitely has a story and does stuff with most of the other Saw movies do not do. Because I watched like 4 of them in a row, and this was the last. I haven't seen the new one yet, but that was the most recent one. And after watching those 4, and a couple of them actually do a pretty good job, this is just it's maybe 30 years from now, people will go, that Spiral, that was just misunderstood in its time. It's the greatest Saw movie. So like Halloween 3 is now.
Sure.
With a lot of people.
Well, I'm certainly not saying that, if that's what you're implying. I'm just saying that as far as the Saw franchise goes, because I don't like those movies.
Yeah.
I thought the first one was really good and really surprising.
Yeah.
And then I thought everything after that was a lot of them trying to do the same thing. And then I was like, hey, cheers for trying something different.
That they did. But, whew, boy, bored.
Man, I wasn't expecting you to say that it was insultingly bad. Holy cow.
Jeez, man. I tried. I really tried.
Right. But I remember this doing very well, too.
It might have.
I'm sure we'll get another, spiral off of the Saw.
I decided I was done with Saw films at some point, and for some reason I decided, well, I'll catch up and see what it's like. And it's been all right. It's because it's exactly what I thought they were going to be, except for this one.
Yeah. Okay, well, how about we take a break? We let Eric cool off a little bit and get some cranberries and all that stuff. And we'll come back and we're talking Franksgiving.
Great cereal, Frankenberry.
Frankly, it's very good. Our visitor, perhaps he'd like a monster for breakfast today.
The real Frankenstein.
This monster's not on the menu.
But Frankenberry cereal is. Strawberry-flavored marshmallows? It's part of his complete breakfast.
Good.
How about a monster for breakfast today?
For real.
Hello?
Let's see who's called the Strange Aeons Radio hotline.
Hey, kids. It's Jamie. I am your penultimate cheerleader here in the South Sound, so I figure I can sign off on that. Just a quick note to let you know that if there is not an episode known as 70s as fuck in the next week or so, or next couple months, I'm a riot, just so you know. That is the best line I think I've heard Vanessa ever utter. Actually, it's not true. She's come off with some great ones in her time there. I did also want to let you know, y'all be doing this for a long time. I have been a fan of Eric and Kelly's forever. I was actually in the room when those two fools met. Anyway, keep up the good work. Love to all, and hope to see you soon. Peace.
Aw. Oh my God.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. Yeah, I've known Jamie, since I was maybe teenager. I think a little bit before that. We've known each other forever.
Wow.
Closest thing I'd definitely say to family that was involved in the most part of my life. Almost everybody else from that long ago, I don't know where they are.
Right.
But so yeah, it's great that he's liking the show and watching it. And we even shot like did a video or two with him as the lead
Yeah,
way
I
long
mean,
ago.
I feel like I've known Jamie. Well, I have known Jamie as long as I've known you, and that's in the third decade of
Yep.
knowing each other now. Jamie, I love you, and I love your voice. I feel like we
Yeah.
just need to have Jamie do a bunch of voiceover stuff for us. He
Oh,
can be
there we go.
the cool voice of Strange Aeons.
Yeah.
He also sends me occasionally stuff on Instagram that's just really inspirational videos and things like
Aw.
that. I'm
Yeah.
like, boy, it's nice to have a male friend who's, so supportive, all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, he's
Also,
really good at that.
how about we say in December we get a 70s as fuck episode?
I am so down for that. That sounds awesome.
I got a text, I think, immediately after he shared that. I was like, this is the greatest line ever.
That's awesome. Oh, well, I hope I run into him one day. Sounds like a really cool dude.
He
Yeah,
very
he is.
much is. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
If you'd like to call the Strange Aeons radio hotline, dial 253-237-4266.
Nobody hangs up on me.
We have returned. Hey guys, we thought it would be fun to take a break from the video nasties this week. It's Thanksgiving after all. And I thought, what's better for Thanksgiving than Franksgiving? All Frankenstein films.
Yeah, the video, the alliteration or the use of similar sounding words in some of these is why we're in Video Nasty November.
That's true. Everything okay over there? Eric? You having a
I
hard
just
time
got
with
a
the
drifting
microphone?
going on with the
Your mic
microphone.
is
You've never-
running away.
You've never done this before?
Mike's never done this before. This is new.
Oh my
Let's-
God. It's
Let's see if it'll stay there for a little bit there.
All
Wow.
right. Okay, so with that in mind, I am putting 10 minutes on the buzzer, and I'm going to talk about a film I'd never seen before.
What? No.
It is from 1965, and it is called Frankenstein Conquers the World.
From the ocean's unfathomable depths, a gigantic, man-like creature appears. From the fiery depths of the earth comes a prehistoric mastodon of destruction. Never before has the screen known such heart-stopping terror. Starring Nick Adams,
Well, I feel he's very important from a scientific point of view. I'd have to cut off a leg or an arm.
Doctors, I won't let you conduct this test.
Frankenstein, with the strength of 1,000 men. And every man's need for affection that makes him a willing captive.
The chain hurts you.
The new scoop of the century. The horrifying touch of a severed hand with a life of its own. Terrifying force of a monster that dwarfs man's tallest structures.
Oh my.
Also known as Frankenstein versus Baragon.
Oh.
I couldn't find any budget for this, but it had a box office of $600,000. Rotten Tomatoes critics are not available, but the audience has it at 54%. It was directed by Ishiro Honda. 79 directing credits, including Godzilla, many other Godzilla movies, Gorath, Rodan, King Kong Escapes. He is basically considered the father of Godzilla.
Oh my.
And it is written by Ruben Berkovich, as well as Takeshi Kimura and John Meredith Lucas. These guys were studio writers for Toho. So they did the Godzilla movies and Samurai Pirate and Rodan, stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting to find out that these guys were all just the studio writers. It is starring the great Nick Adams, who has 65 credits, including Die Monster Die, Invasion of the Astro Monster, and Mission Mars. And Kumi Mizuno, who has 125 credits, including War of the Gargantuas, Ibira, Horror of the Deep, and Lone Wolf and Cub. And Koji Furuhata, who has 6 credits, including Love at 20, Samurai of the Dead, and Bushi no Tamashi. Okay, have you guys seen this movie?
No.
This is a Toho flick.
Wow.
It's a lot of fun. Here
Sounds
come my
like it.
notes. So the film opens with these Nazi officers breaking into the laboratory of Dr. Reisendorf, where they confiscate the living heart of the Frankenstein monster and then pass it on to the Japanese Imperial Navy, who are taking it to Hiroshima for further experimentation. I'm a little bummed that this is what happens and it becomes obvious why, but the Japanese weren't really interested in this kind of science, and it seems like this would have been a perfect Nazi experiment to dig into. But because of the story, they did it this way. Anyway, shortly after the heart makes it to Hiroshima, the Americans drop their first atomic bomb right there, and Hiroshima is destroyed, and the heart with it. Fast forward 15 years to a rebuilt Hiroshima, where we meet American scientist James Bowen and his assistants Sueko and Kawaji. Bowen seems to have a pretty unprofessional relationship with Sueko. She is his assistant and apparently his girlfriend.
No.
They are at dinner and there's all this news of a feral boy that is roaming the streets. And Bowen and Sueko end up finding him and bringing him in to study him because they find out that he has a very strong resistance to radiation. Meanwhile, the former Imperial Navy officer that brought the heart back to Hiroshima is now working at an oil refinery that is suddenly hit with an earthquake, and he's the only one to see that the creature responsible for this is Baragon, who is this groovy kind of lizard kaiju with a gigantic rhinoceros horn. Back to Bowen and his team, they find out that the boy seems to be growing quite large because of his sudden intake of protein. They've actually been feeding him well, and he is getting bigger and bigger. And bigger and bigger in a Godzilla kind of way. Not like he's growing into a man. He's growing into a gigantic boy.
Oh.
They start to get a little scared of him. So they lock him in a cell, and in a bit of movie luck, they figure out that the boy has grown directly from the heart of the Frankenstein monster that was irradiated when Hiroshima was bombed. This is a really stupid idea, but it's also, Japan is the only country that has had nuclear bombs used on it, and they have a very different relationship with it than we do, or any of the world does. And so it's interesting to see these kind of storylines come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I did a little bit of research, and I was like, God, Hiroshima, how are they able to rebuild so quickly after that with radiation and all that? Apparently is because the bomb was exploded so high up in the atmosphere that though it wiped out the city, the radiation levels were very low. If it had been a bomb that had exploded like on the ground or something, there'd just be no way you could ever live there again.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So in a scene right out of King Kong, the boy, just now named Frankenstein, is enraged when a group of reporters show up to harass him, and all of their camera flashes cause him to lash out and finally escape the cell. Meanwhile, again, Baragon is tunneling under villages and destroying them, but the Japanese officials and media believe it to be the work of Frankenstein, so they are all trying to hunt him down. Like I said, Frankenstein is basically the size of Godzilla now, so there's all the Japanese miniatures and all of this stuff that you love.
Wow.
And of course, there's going to be a kaiju rumble at the end of the movie with lots of energy beams and buildings getting smashed. And because I watched the international version, after the big, huge battle, there is a secondary battle with a gigantic octopus for no reason.
Yes.
Sure.
So this was my first viewing of this movie. I really, really enjoyed it. A whole lot of good fun. Don't have a ton of
Does
stuff.
Frankenstein have very many powers in this?
He's a
Just
big
big dude.
15-year-old kid who's
Wow.
feral.
All right.
They kind of tried to do a little bit of a Frankenstein look for him, so they gave him a square forehead.
I've seen stills of
Yeah.
it, but I have not seen the film.
Yeah.
Is he a Japanese kid or is he a...
I'll get into that.
All right.
I have some trivia. There's a scene where Baragon is crushing a farm, and instead of filming a real horse, Eiji Tsuburaya included a fake-looking puppet of a horse in the scene. He was well aware of how it looked, but decided not to go with a more realistic effect because it was, by his own admission, funny. Tsuburaya was well known for his jocular approach to his films, which frustrated most of the staff.
Oh my God.
This horse looks so silly that I was like, what is happening here? This is not up to the quality of effects I was expecting.
Mutant horse.
I just loved it. It's just this tiny little horse that's obviously being moved on a little stick as Baragon is smashing a farm. Frankenstein is not a kaiju, but a kaijin, a Japanese term used for human-like or supernatural monsters.
Oh.
The actor for Frankenstein used green contact lenses to give him a more Western appearance. I will tell you this, it does not work. They called him a Caucasian boy, and I was like, that is not true. But I don't know. I was like, how can you say, you got Nick Adams in this movie. We can all clearly see what a Caucasian looks like. Still, it was fine. And then finally, the film was followed by a very loose sequel called War of the Gargantuas, where I had seen this movie before, and I never really caught the connection to this. That movie is about some of the cells of the Frankenstein monster, which mutate into two large creatures that battle each other, a brown gargantua and a green gargantua, one of them being good, one of them being bad. I kind of like that movie a little better than this one, but this was still a lot of fun. It's called Frankenstein Conquers the World, and I think I just watched it on Prime.
Nice.
Oh.
I beat my buzzer by a long time.
Yeah.
By 2 minutes. All right, guys, I'm turning it off.
All right.
Oh.
Vanessa, that means it's your turn.
All right. Well, I saw this as a great opportunity to check out some of the really weird fringe Frankenstein movies out there. And I had seen little pieces here and there of this weird looking film that was a Frankenstein anime. So I hunted down Monster of Frankenstein from 1981.
My child, mine. Sukel, wake up. We've done it, Sukel. He's alive.
And it's kind of in the same vein of yours to an extent because Japanese take on a classic story.
Oh, I thought this was a Marvel cartoon.
It is that too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So it has many titles. So Monster of Frankenstein, which is translated out of Kyofu Densetsu Kaki, Frankenstein. There's an exclamation mark in there somewhere. It is not where you expect it to be. It has also been translated into Frankenstein Legend of Terror in the U.S., which is what one of the titles it was used for in 1984 when it came back over here to be seen. I watched the 1984 Italian version, which is dubbed into English via YouTube, but has a bunch of Italian writing on it. So it's basically the Americanized version. I could not for the life of me find the Japanese original. I don't think it's lost, but I think it's definitely going to require a lot more digging, probably in discount DVD bins in Japan. So... This is directed by Yugo Sarakawa, who has 34 credits to his name, all animations, including Jetter Mars, Sabagu 009, and 73 episodes of Space Keeters. It's written by Robert It's written by a bunch of dudes who I don't know their stuff, starring Maso Kamatsu, who plays Franken, which is the monster. 87 credits to his name, but it's also starring Jose Kamatsu, who also plays Frankenstein's monster, who has 195 credits to his name. A lot of these people are big animation voice talents. So 195 credits to his name includes Lady Snowblood, Denaru Pillow, War, Zatachi, and the Fugitives. You're kind of getting the idea here.
Micah, do you speak Japanese?
I am sorry. We need a Japanese fan to dub over me. This is really rough. Mayumi Kayama plays Emily Frankenstein. She has 231 credits to her name. A lot of anime, including Akira, Millennium Actress, Black Lagoon, Snatcher, CD Romantic, and 106 episodes of One Piece. Thought that was relevant, and 78 episodes of Dragon Ball. Ichiro Nagai plays grandfather, 296 credits to his name, including Nasakai of the Valley of the Wind, Vampire Hunter D, Ninja Scroll, and 2,234 episodes of Sazo-san.
Wow.
Yes. I know. I'm like, it gets real over in Asia. Like,
Lord.
Damn. And then Nachi Nazawa plays Victor Frankenstein, who's kind of the main. 76 credits to his name, including 31 episodes of Space Cobra and 41 episodes of Rose of Versailles. Jeez. The story. It's going to sound real familiar, people. Mostly. It's Victor Frankenstein and his partner Zuko create a monster that comes to life but then attacks Zuko. They get into a bit of a scuff, and the monster falls off the cliff. They all assume it's dead, so Victor returns to his wife Elizabeth and daughter Emily in a small town elsewhere. Meanwhile, in that same small town, a police inspector named Bilbo also arrives in town to investigate some mysterious mutilations and killings where creatures and people are being torn limb from limb. Victor returns to his life, though he is at odds with his blind father, who has been taking care of his daughter, essentially, while he's been gone, and a young boy named Philip, who's smitten with the daughter. Now, the grandfather's not going to talk about why they're at odds, but they're arguing over something, and it might be relevant. Dun, dun, dun. There's a lot of ask your father, ask your grandfather, ask your father. It's like, just somebody tell me how you're related to the plot, please. Victor is, of course, then blackmailed by his assistant, who turns up, now missing one eye because of the encounter with the monster, and demands a huge sum of money. Victor says he'll pay it, but only if he gets proof of the monster's death. He's been suffering flashbacks, and he is not okay. He was cutting a steak and suddenly remembers cutting up a man to create the monster. And so he's having a little bit of trouble. Later, Zuko admits he has no proof, but still demands money. So that's fun. The monster is, of course, alive and seems to be stalking Victor. He's walking around the town on the outskirts. He's taking apart creatures. However, he does stumble across the blind grandfather, who takes him in and shows. And of course, Emily's like, "Oh my God, there's a monster." And he's like, "No, Emily, he is a man underneath it all. He can be taught English." And so they teach him English. And they make him a really nice chair because he sits down on the other and it breaks. Emily and Franken become really good friends. This is frustrating. I'll get to it in a minute. But the town, of course, Victor, the inspector, and everybody there eventually hunt him down because they see him as a giant creature-tearing creature, which is weird because we're like, oh no, he's sweet and he's got humanity, but then we just spent the whole first half of the movie showing how he rips things apart. So I don't know. Through a series of mishaps, Franken, of course, saves and kind of kills all of Emily's family. She becomes furious with him and shoots him in the hand. He runs off, and she discovers, actually, no, he is still kind of good because he helped my grandfather and didn't kill him. And she's like, oh, no, don't. It's okay. You're my friend. And he finally is able to say her name correctly before he jumps off a cliff. And then immediately after, Victor shoots himself in the head. And then credits.
What?
Yeah. It gets real interesting at the end here.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the mother has already died. The housekeeper has died. Philip has died. Everybody's kind of died. The grandfather nearly died. And then all of a sudden, Victor's just like in the background. I don't think he's just like, you hear him cock a gun. Just a sound goes off. You're like, wait, what? And he's like, I hope you'll forgive me, but I cannot live in this world anymore. Like, Jesus Christ.
Well, there you go.
This is pretty bad. This is a pretty bad piece. It is insanely difficult dialogue throughout. It is just so clunky and just so overly written. In fact, I made a quote from the last lines from the inspector. Though the doctor may have been misguided in his attempts to create life, I often ask myself, did he create a monster, or was it mankind's inability to accept the outwardly monstrous form of what he created that caused us to treat him in a way that made his violent actions inevitable? I've never been able to answer that question, and I don't suppose I ever will.
Oof, holy cow.
Yes.
At least she got that question articulated.
It's like, whoa, you're still talking. Okay. Great. It's pretty difficult to sit through. They love that flower image from the original Frankenstein with the little girl, to the point where almost every moment you see Emily, she's holding flowers. There are 3 female characters in this: Emily, Elizabeth, and Emma. I feel like you could have tried a little harder. People, I was real confused at points. I'm like, wait, is Emma the housekeeper, or is it the daughter? Anyway, Franken also, by the way, very frustrating, because I, in a previous episode on Star, had called the monster Frankenstein pretty much the whole time, much to your guys' like disarray and shrugging awkwardly in the corner every time I did it. So this time I was like, I'm going to call it the monster. And then in the film, they call it Franken. And I was like, I hate you guys so much right now. This sucks. Don't have a lot of trivia. This was the final animated film made from the Marvel license that Toei used to produce the Spider-Man and first 3 Super Sentai series. In 1981, Japanese anime TV movie was based loosely on Mary Shelley's 1818 novel and the comic book Monster Frankenstein, adult-oriented film, essentially, and it was dubbed and then released in the U.S. in 1984. So.
I thought I had seen this, but maybe not.
I mean, you might have just like really Mr. Cleaned your way through half of it in your brain, scrubbing.
I guess maybe I did do that. Maybe I tried to watch it and found it unwatchable.
It's like so like just the Frankenstein story, and then every time they divert, there's so much clunky dialogue and nothingness. Also, the animation is this really weird mix of like, it's the 1800s, but also 80s. So you get like the big like square glasses on like Victor, and like sometimes they're just kind of wearing bell bottoms for no reason. Sure. And you're just like, oh, what year are we in? Okay.
I'll pass on this one.
I don't think it's worth. I mean, it's fun for the novelty of it, but it's really not. It's not a great film.
How did you feel about the actual quality of the animation?
Oh, it's pretty bad.
Oh, okay.
It's not incredible.
Just nothing to recommend this film.
No, not really. Not really. Other than, again, it's a Frankenstein anime. So
Frankenstein completists only.
Yes. If you really need something fun and weird for Halloween, then by all means.
Well, Eric, you want to wrap this up? I'm sure you didn't pick a video nasty.
No, I might have.
Why would you do that to yourself on our off week?
Because it's Flesh for Frankenstein.
Andy Warhol's Frankenstein is here.
Kiss him! Kiss him!
Newsweek magazine calls it the first original Frankenstein in years. A perversely fascinating movie.
Hold me close. Freddy, not so close! I can't... Stop it! What are you doing? I can't breathe! Stop it! Stop it!
Andy Warhol's Frankenstein, with its swooping bats, severed limbs, hideous decapitating devices, and various spare parts. They all slither off the screen in what Playboy magazine calls the most gruesome epic ever unleashed. Andy Warhol's Frankenstein, the goriest, sexiest, and wildest Frankenstein ever filmed.
Oh my God.
Or Andy Warhol's Frankenstein, in which, after watching the film and then reading a little bit more about it, I'm calling it Flesh for Frankenstein. Its release date was 1973. Rotten Tomatoes ratings is 88 by critics and 55 by crowd. Budget of give or take either 300 or 400,000, around there, and it made between 4.7 and $7 million. So
not too shabby.
No.
Wow.
It's available on the Criterion channel right now. I don't know how much longer that'll be, but it's also Vudu for rent or a video Vinegar Syndrome disc.
Whoa.
Can you guess which one I watched? Directed by Paul Morrissey, who also did Blood for Dracula, The Hound of the Baskervilles, Heat, Trash, Flesh. All 3 different films.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute.
Worked with Andy Warhol sort of on a bunch. This also has a second director credit of Antonio Margheriti, who did Your Hunter from the Future, The Hunters of Golden Cobra, Mr. Hercules Against Karate.
Okay, well, you got me on that one.
This one, though, he has 57 directing credits, but apparently this might have been a directing for Italian quota for money back or tax purposes or something.
Oh.
They're not sure how much directing he actually did. Paul Morrissey also was the writer. Basically wrote almost everything he directed. Of course, he's not the original writer. Tonio Guerrero has 113 credits. Movies Cameron, Tigers in Lipstick, The Assassin, The Eclipse, Marriage Italian Style, Illustrious Corpses, and Pat Haggett, who wrote Blood for Dracula and Bad. Actors Joe D'Alessandro is in The Limey, Crybaby, Babylon, Miami Vice, The Killer Nun, Blood for Dracula, and Heat, Trash, and Flesh. Udor Kier, who you all will recognize.
Oh, yeah.
Iron Sky, Theater Bazaar, Mother of Tears, Grindhouse, Dancer in the Dark, Blood for Dracula, 276 credits overall.
Jesus.
Dalia de Lozano, who was in Phenomena, Last Stop on the Night Train, The Beast, Frankenstein 80, which was made in 1972. So, you know. And of course, the classic, Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key.
Right.
Okay, so the movie kind of opens up with 2 kids that are playing around, and they do this weird thing where they pick up a doll, dissect it, and then behead it in this weird little guillotine that is in this room for some reason.
Sounds like my childhood.
Oh, there you go. They're now in a horse-drawn cart with their mother, who is berating workers and gets pissed off at them, especially because one of them is in a kind of a lean-to with, shall we say, a young lady friend. And so Udo appears. Wow, he is young in this. He's talking with an assistant about the troubles he's having coming up with something that represents the best of Serbian ideals. I have no idea what that means, and they don't ever give any indication either. He also speaks horribly of the peasants and the inhuman vermin that he thinks they all are. So something's coming out of the idea of this film, I think. Lady continues to bitch about the lesser people and how awful she thinks they having to have them be in her life is, and that's early part of this film. It is a fairly well shot film with a nice, interesting laboratory. It's really cool looking. It does not look like your typical Frankenstein lab too much, except for, it's got the test tubes and a weird thing full of water that they submerge in for some purpose. I think because it looks cool, because they really don't do anything else with it after they take her out of the water. It's kind of like, oh, well, we're done. It's not, there's large white medical looking tiles all over the place, but it works. There's a lovely bit where they pull out one of the failed subjects and just throw them in a pile of other failed male subjects, because in this movie, the woman is ready to go, but he has not found a suitable male.
Oh.
The dinner scene is wonderfully shot with this ridiculously giant table and a server running around between, or not running, but walking between who I thought were husband and wife, but are actually brother and sister, and their 2 kids that, yes, they had together.
Ew. Oh.
Young guys are now introduced. One of them was in the lean-to earlier, and another one is talking about how he wants to become a monk. So the other guy decides, well, I will take you to a brothel and you will learn why you don't want to be a monk. So going back to Udo, his idea is, and this is a rough idea coming with someone with a heavy German accent, he's working on building a new race. He has the perfect woman, but he has yet to get the perfect man.
Oh, no.
And then they're going to apparently reproduce. In the grand tradition of Three's Company, he gets the wrong guy.
Oh, no.
Instead of the guy who's fornicating with 2 or 3 women at a time, he picks up the guy who's sitting in the corner having nothing to do with the sex, who wants to be a monk. Follows shortly after they bring the guy back, Udo's famous line from this movie, "To know death, you have to fuck life in the gallbladder."
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's a quote.
Which he sort
Cliche for a reason.
he sort of kind of does in a truly disturbing scene of Udo on top of the woman who he just cut open. It's kind of gross.
Fuck, man.
The rest is kind of basically a strange trip of a Frankenstein movie. A lot of weirdness going on. It's got some goriness. That one scene I referenced with the gallbladder thing is the entire reason it got on the Video Nasties. And yes, this is a Video Nasties movie. Here's some taglines. Warning. This film contains gory and gruesome scenes which some people might find offensive. We dare you to see. Brings the house off the screen or the horror off the screen and into your lap.
Oh, my.
Wow.
It was shot in 3D originally. This was not a 3D version, but you can definitely tell the moments the 3D was utilized.
Okay, so that's why it brings it in off the screen and into your lap.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the Vinegar Syndrome, I started to watch an interview with Paul Morrissey. Damn, what a fascinating person. Holy shit. How he made this movie was crazy. He's introduced to an Italian producer who's Sophia Loren's husband and asked what kind of movie he wanted. The guy who was with like, we'll do horror. Like, great. What do you want to do? Frankenstein. Okay. What kind of budget do you think you need? How about $300,000? It's like, great. Why don't you make 2? I'll give you 2 $300,000 movies and you can do what you want. So that's how he made Blood of Dracula after this one. Then the guys look at the producer. Paul likes to work without a script. Producer says, that's fine.
Whoa.
So for 3 weeks, Morrissey would write the day's scene in the car to the set.
Oh, my God.
His assistant would write some rough dialogue and work through the afternoons and through the day to give them some kind of words to say. And that's how he made both films. He would direct the actors to start. The camera would start to roll, and he would let it roll until the reel was done.
Oh, my God.
Which explains the bizarre acting in this movie. It's not great, but at times now I understand a little bit better why it's not so great. Because they had probably very few lines, and they were just running with the scene, which explains why there are some really long scenes in here, which I'm guessing were actually single shots.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a video nasty for gore and necrophilia. Let's see. It was finally granted full renewal in 2006. to be released. Which was in '65, he was introduced to Andy Warhol, who asked him to contribute to new ideas for directing. From then on, Morrissey not only directed his films, but signed on to manage Warhol in every aspect but the selling of art. So he worked with him a lot. He did not have a lot of nice things to say about Andy Warhol either. Let's see if we get another one. He helped create the Velvet Underground. He was the film's distributor. Let's see, one more thing here I thought was pretty wild is he was always responsible for his films entirely, working consistently with young unknown actors, writing and directing with no outside interference at all. Once financing from independent sources no longer allowed him the freedom to do that, he stopped making movies.
And you're talking about the director, right?
Paul Morrissey.
Yeah, Paul Morrissey. Okay.
He made a fair amount of films.
So how did Andy Warhol's name get attached to this?
What's the Andy Warhol connection?
He wanted to start making movies, and he did, like that thing of the shot of the Empire State Building. It's like just a camera set up for like 4 hours or something.
I think it's like 10. Yeah.
And just stuff like that. So he came to Paul. I'm not sure why. It's a hour-long interview. I haven't watched the whole thing yet. It might get into that a little bit more. But then basically he just came in and became his movie production thing. So I think it's sort of like Stephen King Presents. I think this was Andy Warhol Presents, where he had very little to do. He didn't, as far as I can tell, he never went to set. He knew nothing of what was being made while this film was being put together. None of the making ofs talk about him as being part of the movie.
Wow.
So really just they just needed a name to sell the story.
That kind of sucks. I don't know. In my brain, this was one of those films that I was like, man, that's got to be wild. This like weird Andy Warhol Frankenstein movie, but no.
It's pretty weird. And unfortunately, I didn't quite get the humor until about halfway through it. I realized, hold on, this is supposed to be satire.
Yeah.
And once I got that, some of the shit gets really funny.
Right.
And it's really well done. Not watching it as satire, it's a really bad movie.
Yeah, I don't like this movie at all. I think Blood for Dracula is a much more successful film. How interesting. I remember seeing this, and all I can remember of it is the ripping the head off of the woman and handing it to Frankenstein.
Oh, off the guy.
Off the guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've even misremembered that. It's been a long time.
Well, the men in this movie are very pretty, so that might have been what it was, long blonde hair kind of guys.
Okay. Yeah, well, okay.
So this was interesting.
You've given yourself 5 video nasties for the month.
Yep.
I am amazed.
I'm horrified. I don't know what this says about you, but you're a different person than I thought you were.
I just want to
fascinated by depravity, I guess. Don't want to live it myself, but I'll watch it on screen.
I was having such a PTSD moment where you were like explaining how it's a video nasty, and I was like, oh my God, my film wasn't a video nasty. I messed up this week.
Yep, you're good.
Oh my God.
Well,
but
that
next
was
week.
Oh God, yeah, I know. We go back to video nasties. I'll tell you this: I had such a good time with this idea that I hope that this just becomes our Thanksgiving theme.
I think we can do that. There's at least 4 or 5 more Frankenstein movies I would love to dip into.
And when I just put Frankenstein into the IMDb search thing, it was like 1,048 movies. So I was like, okay, there's a lot. I actually did watch another movie just in case that was not very good. Maybe I'll talk about that at a different time.
Nice.
Okay, well, so then that means next week we're coming back with the last Video Nasty episode ever, you guys. I promise you.
I'm fine with that. I'm definitely not going to push that.
Yes, for the love of Christ.
So instead, what we'll talk about now is thanking everybody for liking and sharing posts, for donating, for participating in the Value for Value model, for calling the Strange Aeons hotline. Thanks, Jamie, which is 253-237-4266, for getting on the Buy Us a Pizza.
Yeah, Buy Us a Pizza. I've got to comment on an ongoing series we've been doing on our Strange Aeons Radio Talk Facebook page, where I've been sharing what Severn's putting out.
Right.
I'm probably not going to be buying what Severn's putting out. They're releasing the most expensive box set, or not box set, but package they've done. It's a $100 package of
Oh my
films. I'm
God.
like, maybe I'll get
No.
Cemetery Man.
Yeah, Strange Aeons
Wow.
Radio Talk is such a fun page, and it's been so exciting to see what recommendations people have been coming
Even
up
if you're off Facebook and hate it completely, jump on just to join us because it is a pretty interesting, lighthearted, fun.
Yep.
You must
movie
be
talk
speaking
place.
of Carlos when you say that, who was completely off of Facebook. And then I said, oh, you can comment here. And he was like, oh, so now he's on Facebook for that. And of course, now I see he's all over Facebook and he hates us because we brought it back.
Oh, no.
Sorry about that.
Yes, I'm definitely in the Carlos camp of I do not want to interact with Facebook. However, I am on the Strange Aeons Radio Talk page. So.
Yeah, okay. Well, so that's it then, guys. We're coming back in 7 short days, and we are talking video nasties for the very last time.
Transportation and other considerations for Strange Aeons Radio produced by Pan Am Airlines. When you think of traveling, think of Pan Am. You can't beat the experience. Guests of Strange Aeons Radio stay at Econo Lodge Everett. It's an easy stop on the road, if you know what we mean. Strange Aeons Radio is recorded live in front of a studio audience. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a positive review on your favorite podcast app. Sit, Ubu, sit.
This is fucking awesome. I am 100% in. Like, this is great.